Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at patreon.com/inspired disorder.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Dave, Season 2, just completed on Hulu. At least that's where I watched this. Also an FX show or FXX. I'm not sure. But it is still my favorite show. I reviewed the first season back when that completed maybe a year ago. It feels like a long time. They definitely produced this one during the pandemic. After the great reviews of season 1, they purchased another season. And Dave Bird, a.k.a. Little Dicky, who is the writer, creator, and star of this show, wrote season 2. And this season, unlike all of season 1, this first episode really set the tone for what would become a very diverse, like emotionally diverse season, a very heavy season. Whereas the first season was very comedic. Every episode ended with a punchline, hilarious, but also well written, great characters, all of that. This one, the first episode, Dave, Gaeta, and Mike are in Korea, and he's shooting a music video with a Korean pop star, and it is dramatic. It is stressful. There are like the arguments with Dave and Mike and even Gaeta, and then they have this intern kid that's there with them. Just very, very stressful. The first episode, like no comedy. Dave is supposedly he got signed to this label at the last season, so he's writing his debut album. He's supposedly in the process of creating his debut album, and he went to Korea to do this music video to just get more publicity. Because as we find out in season 2, Dave comes from the world of marketing. In a great, every episode was great. It was like a slap in the face, not like disrespectfully a slap in the face, but to watch episode 1 was just so heavy and so stressful. And it's like Dave is kind of a jerk. He's like really sinking into that jerk role of being like this egotistical guy, despite the fact that he's like still so new in the industry. And there's another episode with Doja Cat that really illustrates the contrast in what a current pop star has to deal with schedule-wise on a day-to-day basis, the amount of responsibilities that comes with that level of fame versus where Dave is at, where, he's just kind of doing what he wants. The record label got him a nice mansion in the hills for him to write his album. And he's living there with Mike, who's manager, friend, although their friendship throughout the season really, you can tell Mike, I hope there's a season 3. There's, considering all the great reviews that I've seen of season 2, I can't imagine there not being a season 3. But it kind of breaks my heart. Mike was the biggest disappointment in this season because I'm a huge fan of Andrew Santino. At least, the Bad Friends podcast, one of my favorite podcasts. I think he's a hilarious comedian. He's funny when he's on other people's podcasts. And he was great in season 1. And, he became a manager, mixing business with friendship. And, it just feels like a lot of the scenes, he's not there. He's on his own. But it feels like his character is kind of splitting away. Like Els, the guy that makes all of Dave's beats, he's kind of big time now in this season, so you don't see Els as much, which is fine. You get to see a lot more of how horrible Dave is, and then there's these episodes where, you get to see some of the other characters like Emma and Allie. But anyway, so it starts off in Korea, super, like their intern gets arrested because he's got to serve in the military, whatever. Like, there's a whole drama there. Dave's laptop gets seized in the arrest, and that's when we find out that he is creatively bankrupt, that he has nothing. He is nowhere with his album. Everybody's freaking out because they thought that they lost all of his work, but he doesn't have any work. All he has is the song that they're doing a music video for in Korea. There's nothing for this new album of Penis. But despite the fact it being stressful, like tonally, it wasn't the comedic, lighthearted, fun show that most of the first season was. I like to think of it as life. There's ups and downs. And season 1 was the joy and fun of the up. He's getting successful, stepping out of his comfort zone. Other people are like stepping up to help him out, like to achieve this goal. And then he achieved the goal, but then he has nothing to fall back on because he has no experience. He's still super new in the rap world. So this is the down where it's like he's like struggling. He's got writer's block. He can't think of anything. He's like stuck. He's stuck, and he's become like just a jerk, and it's painful to watch. So while the first season was like the upswing, this is like the downswing in some ways. But then, by the end of the season, I was crying. I was crying at the end of the very end of the last episode of season 2. I was crying. I was so emotional. I mean, I love this show so much, and I love seeing that it can go from just a comedy to everything. He tackles all of the emotions in this, and there's still comedy. Definitely a darker variety of comedy, but it's a lot heavier. There's a lot of other emotions attached to the show. Then there's a whole thing with he has like this ant infestation. He's doing everything to distract himself from being creative also. Like he's doing all of the wrong things in order to put something out. What you have to do is you have to treat it like a job, and you have to clock in whether you feel like clocking in or not, and you have to put something out. Now, you may not like what you put out, but you showed up to work, you put in the time, you did the reps. And eventually you'll work through whatever. You're going to break through. He's not doing that. He's waiting for inspiration to strike him, and he's, spending all this money on masturbation tools, and, he's single now, so trying to go on dates, which is awkward for him. And you really see how awkward it is. Amazing actor. Amazing. I mean, when he's with his ex, Allie, who she's moved on in this season, but you see the instant he's with her or around her, his vibe changes 100%. It's like he went from being this complete jerk to everyone, and then he just becomes sweet Dave when he's around Allie. And it's, amazing performances, top to bottom. But that specifically was, it was weird watching that episode, which I can't remember which episode it was. I think it was the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar episode. And it's just instantaneous that like his whole vibe and thing, he just lets his guard down and he's just normal sweet Dave. But yeah, so there's the antsy episode, which, was also like a bummer. Like, we're watching this guy not do what he's like feels destined to be doing, right? We're seeing that downswing. And then you have the Observer episode where it's him and his producer friend Benny, which is a crazy episode. Like, they are just, in a lot of ways, it's just another form of masturbation. It's another form of being unproductive. He goes over to Benny's place to help him, get some beats to try and find some inspiration, and they end up just playing and, messing around with each other in the most homoerotic ways, Like, I've never bonded with a friend in that way. Not to that. That's like, those like so many more levels of like this quasi homoerotic kind of a thing going on, which was fun to watch. Their friendship is just, it's amazing. And I think Benny is an actual in the music. I think, yeah, just amazing act. Like all these people. Maybe the Kareem episode was funny. You know, Dave's trying to kind of impress Allie, and Kareem found a song that Dave did, so he wants to write about him, and Dave's like conflicted, like trying to understand what his facade is to put out to the world and how to deal with himself and what he's created, because he's a very immature comedic hip hop artist, so it's he's struggling, and he's struggling to understand what his identity is and how he fits in with the world, and how he can navigate the landscape of media and trying not to get canceled and all that kind of stuff, and not offend anybody. He's not intentionally trying to offend anybody. Good episode. Kareem, I mean, he's Kareem. He's not a great actor. I've yet to see a good basketball player as an actor. There's plenty of them have tried it, but but Kareem was great as Kareem, I guess. He wasn't like a big part of it. He was just, had to be there. But an interesting one. Then you have Bar Mitzvah, where you're seeing Little Dicky and Elle's relationship really come to a head. Because they get hired to do this bar mitzvah. Els is like big time now, so he's like over it. He tries to goes through his management to get credit, be credited on all of Little Dicky's tracks on his album, which is unheard of for producers unless you're like Khaled or whatever. But it was just Els testing Little Dicky. But it really what he was doing was, he was poking. He knew Little Dicky's ego is like so large, and not that Els isn't either. He's very much big time, but I think he's just handling it a little bit better and understands where Little Dicky's at, and was kind of poking at him. Great episode. You get to see them bond. I mean, they talk about how they used to get kicked out of bar mitzvahs all the time. And in that episode, they got kicked out. Really fun. It brought a lot of the comedy back. I mean, even in the Kareem episode was like, it like ends with Kareem breaking his leg. It's like such a like Gata is trying to get repped by Mike. Mike is bringing on these new clients that are kind of like these jackass prankster guys. And they prank Gata. Gata's pissed. Like there was just so much volatility in all those first episodes. And then finally the bar mitzvah episode felt like, and it started off stressful too. But once that stress broke, once Els and Lil Dicky go to talk about this credits stuff for the album, and they go into the garage, and what they see It broke all the tension. Their friendship, was clearly they ironed things out. And it ends with Gata being able to perform his new song for the kids because Lil Dicky and Els got kicked out. So it was like finally an episode. It felt good to see Gata get to perform, getting to see his kind of rise as an artist himself. But you also see finally that tension break a little bit, and Mike is like, it's so sad. Mike is like so disconnected from the whole group, and it's such a bummer. He's like bonding with the dad in that episode, bar mitzvah episode. Then the Doja Cat episode, amazing. I mean, the whole episode is basically done through text. It's like the best use of texting in like anything. Because the whole thing is like Lil Dicky's on like hanging out with his parents, going shopping, whatever. And he matches with Doja Cat on a dating app, and they're like texting back and forth. And you're seeing Lil Dicky's day, which is kind of just whatever. And then you're seeing her day, which is like planned down to the second of what she has to do. It's like so full. Like the contrast in those two, where those two artists are in their career, where Lil Dicky is just he has the only responsibility he has is to write this album, to write his debut album. That's it. That's all he has to do responsibility wise. She's like so far past that. She's getting like, she's got to go do photo shoots. She's got to do rehearsals. She's got to do her live stream. She's got everything booked and scheduled throughout her life. And this was like the one thing is going out on this date, which she's like, Little Dicky's funny. He's funny. They're flirting. They're going back and forth. I love this episode because I've had days like that. Talking to like this woman that you meet on a dating app. This is like back when I worked at Costco. I remember just being so excited and couldn't even think about the reality around me at all. I'm so focused on just having this conversation with this woman back and forth, and it's like hitting it off. I love that episode so much. And it really showed not only like the contrast in their careers, but also the continued immaturity that Dave has. Like he's trapped in this immature thing where he just can't comprehend other people's existences yet. To an extent where it ends up crumbling. Then the next episode, you get to see kind of the pre Little Dicky, like before he had his name Little Dicky, when he was still working at a marketing firm with Emma, which that kind of recontextualizes that whole relationship, that they were friends, and that's probably how he met Allie, because they were roommates. So she, his work friend. And you get to see how Little Dicky's first performance, but you're also seeing the backstory of Emma, who in this season is finally kind of, she's always had the dream of directing a movie, and she's finally kind of taking steps to follow that dream, like Little Dicky did back when he was an ad man, and they crashed an ad sales meeting to pitch Mountain Dew an idea. And it was, Little Dicky rapping, and it's a fun episode too, because it's the episode is cutting from that and then cutting back to present day, where Little Dicky is doing this like this show with up and coming rappers where they have to like freestyle and they do little backgrounds on them or whatever. And he's just like just crashing and burning. So she's like remembering the times of how it all started, and she's almost taking pleasure in seeing him crash and burn, because he's being just like, she's helped him. She helped him then. She's helping him now. Like, she goes and flirts with the DJ to find out what the beat is, so he has something to go on when it's up when it's his turn to freestyle. But he's like so not thankful at all about any of that. Bummer. But that's just who Little Dicky is in this season. He's like an anti-hero. You're really like, this season really highlights the great people that he has around him, which it's sad that they didn't have like an episode for Mike. I mean, they kind of did with the packing peanuts or whatever, but it didn't go well for Mike. It didn't make me like Mike more. It just made me feel bad that he's like just alone on his birthday with, his friends he's not really involved with his friend's life anymore because he works for him. But yeah, Ad Man was a great one. The Birds was another fun one. You get to see his parents. He hangs out with his parents because they kick him out of the mansion because he's not doing anything. So he goes back to live with his parents. And he gets to learn more about his parents, who he doesn't know anything about. Great performances from both of his parents and Little Dicky. It is amazing how great actors everybody involved with this show is. And none of them, not none of them, but like Little Dicky's, not an actor. He is, but that's not his main focus. He's a rapper. I don't know. I loved it. Enlightened Dave is amazing. He goes to Rick Rubin's place to help with his problem. He's going to help try and produce something, which I'm a big fan of Rick Rubin. I'm a huge Chili Pepper fan, and one of their best albums was Funky Monks. Well, that's a documentary of Blood Sugar Sex Magic. So it's kind of a thing where Dave is coming to a head with his ego. And, it's done through a very, like, psychedelic kind of trippy, surreal scenes. Beautiful. The direction and the shots in this show are just as good as the acting. Like, everything is so good. The writing is great. Acting is great. The way it's shot is beautiful. Beautifully shot. And Enlightened Dave is, just mind-blowing. Like, it's him coming to grips with the fact that he's taking advantage of Gata and, just reappropriating other people's styles to try and make his own, and he's doing everything to keep his own voice down. Just an amazing episode, a crazy, conceptually crazy episode, beautifully done. And then the final episode, entitled Dave, it's Gata and Dave's relationship comes to a head. There is an episode, I forget which one it is. I think it was the bar mitzvah one, where Gata, his car gets towed, and he spends the night trying to find a charger for his phone and trying to charge. And I was so scared for Gata this whole time. At one point, he jumps over somebody's fence to go plug into their Christmas lights or whatever to charge his phone, and it's the whole time I'm like, oh no, he's gonna get please don't tell me he gets shot or arrested or beat up or I understand the reality of being black in LA, but this show is already so heavy at moments that I actually kind of enjoyed the episode, that it at least made me feel like I had that fear, but it didn't, it never came to that, which is nice. Not that ignoring a problem is going to fix a problem, but it's so easy to do in TV shows. And I think this one used the fact that it's so overdone in TV shows. We get it. People know, we literally see live video of people being murdered by the police, and we don't need to also see it fictionalized, but we can use that. We can use the idea that everybody knows that that's what happens, and we can use that to add tension and fear to these scenes of Gata trying to get home. Awesome. But the last season, it's Dave and Gata, which also we come to find out that Gata, a.k.a. Davante, he's Dave. His name is Dave also. Obviously, he goes by Gata, but there's a scene when he's leaving the house angry, and his sister comes, is running after him, yelling his name, Dave. And it's beautiful because in a lot of ways they are very similar dudes. They're both trying to follow a dream. Dave, very narcissistic and has giant ego, but also immense amount of negative vibes that he puts out, while Gata is all joy and positivity. But you see that conflict, and you see even up until the end, there's all this conflict between them. Dave is trying to prepare for the music video awards, trying to do this crazy thing. Comes up with this plan to do a surgery live on stage, and that's kind of a way that he can force MTV to not cut away from his performance. This, and which that's you once you realize that Dave comes from a marketing background, then it all makes sense why he's always trying to do these stunts to gain popularity, because he's putting the cart before the horse. He's not fleshed out as an artist yet. He's starting to, definitely. This is the season of Dave being humbled. But you're also seeing the rise of Gata, and this this friction that they have in this episode, and then up until the very end, right? The way it's shot. I rewatched this whole season multiple times, rewatched the final episode multiple times. The way they shot, like they have this big argument. Dave kicks Gaeta out of rehearsal because Gaeta's been selling these wristbands to try and make money. And, Dave is, goes to his house to see what's happening. He thinks he's having a manic episode, which in the first season we were introduced to Gaeta's mental health issues. Amazing episode. Gaeta is like I love Gaeta so much in this show. Like he is so much the heart. He's always positive. He's always like believes in himself and believes in other people. And when Dave goes to his house, he's showing Dave, it's like, look how much I'm working. Like what I was talking about, clocking in, putting in the work, pushing through writer's block. That's what Gaeta does. He goes in that closet and he works. Now, he may not be putting out the same quality stuff as, art is subjective, but maybe not the same style, quality, whatever of what Lil Dicky's doing. But he sees that this dude is real and that he's working and he puts in the work and he's hustling. And Dave's just never really given him a shot. He's always just been the hype man. He's never been asked to be on a track or anything like that. And it all comes to a head in their argument. And then it cuts to backstage of the VMAs. And Mike and Els is backstage with Lil Dicky. Dicky's about to go on. And they're like, okay, everything's ready. The doctor's ready. Anytime you want to bail on this, you let us know. And it's all good, whatever. And Lil Dicky's like, have you talked to Gaeta? And they're like, yeah, we talked to him. He's fine. Don't worry about him. And then Lil Dicky finally tells Mike and Els how appreciative he is of what they've done for him. Finally, like it's that moment where he finally, ego death or whatever, but I don't really think it was complete ego death because the rehearsals clearly, it's still there, but shining, it's not always there. And he lets down his guard and he apologizes and he thanks them for being, so great to him. It's a super touching moment, like something that you want him to say that to Gaeta, but you don't get that. And it's like, he's doing this thing, Gaeta. Like, what's going to happen now with Gaeta? Like, is Gaeta gone? Is he just going to do his own thing? Like, it seems like Mike is going, what's happening? Everything's falling apart. And then, it cuts to Gaeta watching the VMAs, watching Lil Dicky about to get announced on the VMAs. Got, everybody. Emma, while she's editing the music video, she's watching the VMAs. Allie with her new boyfriend. They're on the couch watching the VMAs. You're seeing all these people. His parents are in the audience. Gaeta watching the monitor, crying. I'm getting choked up. His tears. And then, cut to on stage. There's Gaeta. Beautiful. They made up. I'm like, just thinking about it, telling you, I'm getting emotional. Thinking about it. It's beautiful. I get teared up, obviously, thinking about it, but watching it was amazing. What the fuck? Oh. Love the show. Great show. Go watch Dave, season 2. It's on Hulu. Binge it. Binge the first season. It's so bingeable. Burn through the first season if you haven't seen it. It's hilarious. It'll hook you. Season 2, rough. Painful. But that end. Beautiful. Man. Watch it. Dave. Get yourself $25 in new credit when you sign up for your great new cell phone service over at Ting. Go through my link, inspireddisorder.com/Ting. Sign up now with that link, and you get yourself $25 to put towards a new device, put towards your service. But it's a great quality service that you do not pay an arm and a leg for. I love it. I've been using it for years and pay so very little. I could almost pay 2 months of my cell phone bill with $25 credit that you get for free when you go through my link, inspireddisorder.com/Ting. That's TING, inspireddisorder.com/Ting. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com and follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!